Hey there, welcome to part 4 of Self and Personality. I guess I've had a great time talking to you about the concept of self and helping you to unravel what self awareness is all about for you. I hope I've been good enough to help you get there. Well, I'd love to hear about that in the comments section, so make sure to pin that. Also, I have been fascinated with the whole idea of personality, and I'm hoping I've somehow infused a little bit of that passion about personality in you. So, what is it that you know about personality so far? I'd love to hear the definition which you've understood for personality and also the two theories. So, we have the trait and the type approach that we've discussed in the first few parts so far. So, which was your favorite theory? I think I personally choose trait approaches because I resonate with it a lot more. I'm curious to know what was your favorite type or trait approach to understand the concept of personality. Do share with me and let's begin to deep dive into today's path, which is all about psychoanalysis. So, guys, what is psychoanalysis? Have you heard about Sigmund Freud? He happens to be the father of psychoanalysis, and he's somebody who was just like a general physician. You know, the doctors that you go to for whenever you fall sick? So, as a general physician, Freud had a lot of patients who would see him daily. And what he noticed was that the patients, when they would talk about when they spoke about their physical ailments, it was not so much to do with the bodily conditions, but it was so much to do with their emotions. It's the feelings, and those feelings were generated by the thoughts that they were thinking. And once he discovered this, he realized that a lot of problems, physical pains, which people experience, they were largely emotional and they were largely created by the relationships that they owned. What he understood was that once you heal the relationship that the individual had with the other person, the emotions were resolved and the body would then thrive in well being. Now, Freud was fascinated with how this truly works. And essentially, what Freud did was he tried to develop his theory, which used a lot of dream analysis. So he's the pioneer of the dream theory, and if you come across his book known as The Interpretation of Dreams, I guess that'll be one of the best reads that you explore. So, this book basically talks to you about the various symbols that we see in our dreams. And according to Freud, it is not so much about the things that you actually see in your dream, but or exactly how is it that the dream plays out, but it is more about the emotional component of the dream that helps you to understand what is happening in your subconscious or unconscious mind. Unraveling the same would help Sigmund Freud to understand. So, techniques like dream analysis, slips of tongues, they were essential aspects to kind of understand your unconscious mind. His was the iceberg theory, guys, and the iceberg theory talks about your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind, pretty much like an iceberg. So, today's lesson will focus on a lot of your aspects of personality in terms of whatever is conscious with you in your mind, also that's unconscious. So, we're going to talk and unravel some of these facts and ideas. Well, are you ready? This is going to be interesting and rather revealing. So, get a grip and let's go. So, Sigmund Freud's approach was rather interesting. And like I said, he used hypnosis to treat people with physical and emotional problems. So, people in general, with whatever problems they came up to Freud as a general physician, he noted that people they needed more of an emotional support They needed like somebody just to talk to and vent and maybe give out whatever they were feeling within. Okay, so, and he noticed that when people had the opportunity to do that, they actually felt better. They felt way lighter. So he used the whole idea of free association, which is actually the word game which the three friends they played in the movie called Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. So if you heard Hrithik Roshan play this little game with Mr. Akhtar, you would notice that they were playing free association. It is a method in which the person is asked to very openly share all of their thoughts, feelings, ideas that came to their mind. Okay, and doing so for example, if I give you the word tree, what would come to your mind? If I'd said sky, you were asked to reply back to the first thing that came to your mind quickly. If I said sister, or if I said mother, or if I said teacher, or if I said dog. So you're supposed to respond to these words very quickly and efficiently. And if you were doing that, so wherever you got stuck, like for example, Farhan Akhtar got stuck when it came to father, that meant for Hrithik Roshan, that was a cue that father was the area of concern that was bothering Farhan Akhtar. Okay, so that is how free association is actually played. The other tool that Sigmund Freud very popularly used was known as dream analysis, like we've already discussed. It also had analysis of error. For example, if an individual during a meeting happened to set discussion instead of discussion, that highlighted an internal functioning of their own mind. Okay, so analysis of error was also very important and crucial for the understanding of the psychodynamic approach. So, to understand this approach better, Freud had split the mind into three parts, which were known as the levels of consciousness. So, Freud he visualized human beings at three levels of their operation, of their ability to deal with things, which was split into consciousness, pre-consciousness, and unconsciousness. Now, how many of you have actually seen an iceberg in the ocean? If not, may I request you to imagine seeing an iceberg in your mind's eye right now? So there is a part of the iceberg that is actually visible to the ship and the sailor, right? Then of course there is a part of that iceberg which is sometimes underwater and sometimes it is above water depending on the waves which are flowing through. Then of course there is a part of the iceberg that is not visible to the sailor and to the ship and is called the unconscious mind. It is something that is not visible or seen. So according to Freud, the conscious mind was the visible part of the iceberg. The part that is sometimes visible, sometimes not visible, the ice, I mean, because of the waves, because of the wavy waves, nature of the waves, was called as the preconscious, according to Freud. And then, of course, there is the unconscious, which is the part that was never visible to the sailor or the ship, which was the hidden part of the iceberg. Okay, according to Freud, a lot of the problems, a lot of the conflicts which we don't understand where they come from, stem from, is because of the unconscious mind. Let us now explore the three concepts very, very closely and clearly. So, the conscious mind is you having the conscious awareness in your moment in time right now about your thoughts, feelings, actions. It's simply the awareness that you have about anything that is ahead of you at a moment in time. Okay, so whatever awareness that you have, which is loud and clear, which is very, unavoidable, which is so loud that it's like, everywhere within, you're clear of, is your consciousness. It is your conscious mind. Then, of course, guys, you have the pre-conscious mind. Now, the pre-conscious mind, it actually includes all of the mental activity which people become aware of only when they pay close attention to it. So, for example, if I ask you, what is it that you had for lunch yesterday? Of course, you may not instantly or immediately remember what you had for lunch yesterday, but if you focus a little more, you will be able to retrieve that information close enough to be able to answer me about what you had for lunch yesterday. That, guys, is your preconscious, which means that it consists of information which is not available at the moment, but of course can be retrieved upon careful consideration or paying close attention. Okay, now there is also an unconscious mind. That unconscious mind, which is the invisible part of the iceberg, is actually the part which you're very unaware of. So you know how in your everyday you experience your reality and you don't quite know what's going on, right? So the unconscious reservoir is actually that instinctive animalistic area of your mind which stores all of those wishes which are concealed from your conscious awareness. Okay, this is what results in all conflicts which you experience in your everyday, because there's simply lack of awareness about what is truly going on in your mind. Okay, so sometimes, for example, when you react very weirdly with your mother, you're very rude to her and you don't quite understand why. Okay, that is because of the conflict that is going on in your internal mind. So all of this unconsciousness, it's perhaps, let's say that you're sitting and you're watching this video and you're very closely paying attention to what I'm saying, but you're hating on me. And you might not really know the true reason of why you're hating on me. That it's something which stems from the unresolved stuff in the reservoir of your unconscious mind. And the lack of resolution of this is actually what results in that abnormal behavior. So you need to be very wary of whatever thoughts you think, feelings you feel, as all of them is something that can result in conflicts of some kind. According to Sigmund Freud, all of this analysis of forgetting, of mispronunciations, of jokes, of dreams, all of that was the reason why psychoanalysis was developed, and these were the true tools which was used by Sigmund Freud to understand the basic goal of the psychoanalytic therapy, which was largely to get the unconscious material to the conscious material using these techniques such as analysis of forgetting, mispronunciation, jokes, so forth. And all of this, guys, was done only for one thing, which was to basically raise self-awareness. You want self-awareness and you want to live an integrated life rather than a very scattered and, disintegrated life, which was the core reason why the levels of the consciousness was put together to help us understand ourselves better and raise more self-awareness. Okay, so now we're going to move ahead to understand the structure of this personality. So when it comes to the structure of personality, Freud was an individual who was fascinated with the workings of the mind, right? He was fascinated with what is the conscious, the unconscious aspect. And while unraveling the same, what he understood of the entire concept was that there is something known as the id, the ego, and the superego. So have you come across the image of an individual with an angel and the demon on the side, right? So that angel and the demon, the three things, they exist in all of us and they are understood as the id, the ego, and the superego. So the id, guys, is essentially that part of it's actually the demon. It is the one that's always wanting whatever they want right now, right here, without considering that they cannot have it in this time and space, but they just want instant gratification of whatever it is that they want. Have you ever seen a child crying for a toy in the mall or during a shopping complex, and they literally fall to the ground screaming, shouting for wanting what they want? That is the id impulse. Okay, and is based on the pleasure principle, which means that it wants what it wants. Then of course you have the ego. Ego is something that is the individual, it is the I. So there's the demon, there's me, and then there's the angel we'll talk about next. But the I, which is the ego, is based on the reality principle. It simply states that you want to bend a lot of focus on realizing that okay, maybe I am at the mall, I'm with my parents, and maybe I'm putting on a show. Maybe I shouldn't like scream and shout for something like this and embarrass my parents. But that doesn't come to a child. That probably happens when you grow older to a teen, right? Which kind of helps you to make sense of the world you're around in, and we'll discuss this a little more in detail. Then of course you have the little angel, which is the third person here, which is known as the superego. So the superego is based on the morality principle. It's something that tells you from the right and wrong, which is also something that develops with age, and we'll talk about it now. Let's dive into the structure of personality. So, according to Freud's theory, the primary aspect of your personality is comprised of the id, the ego, and the superego. Okay, so these three are basically those forces, guys, that basically help you to behave in the way you actually behave. So, what is this id, ego, superego from the angel, demon, and the individual that I just explained? Let's dive deeper to it. It is that person's instinctual energy. And I want you to now highlight, underline everything as we go. Okay? It's this instinctual energy. It loves immediate gratification. That means it wants what it wants and it wants it now. Of all of the primitive needs, the sexual desires and aggressive impulses. So, whatever it is that they want, it could be any kind of need, it could be any kind of desire for, babies have a thing for sucking their thumb. If you remove their thumb, they'll put it right back in, right? So for sucking, biting, maybe they want milk. When they want milk, you cannot not give it to them. They'll probably cry a great deal. And of course, there are those other aggressive impulses that all of us have, even as adults. For example, if I'm having a bad day, maybe a cheesecake would help me improve it. And that's not exactly my aggressive need, but my impulse to get what I want when I want is my pleasure principle of just getting what I want. Okay, so that's the pleasure principle that you want to focus on. So, which assumes that people seek a lot of pleasure to avoid their pain. Okay, all of us, we have this instinctual energy which is rather sexual in nature, and it rests as aggressiveness. So, the ID, guys, it does not really care for moral values, for the society of right or wrong. That is something that it just doesn't care about. It's not interested in it. Okay, on the contrary, we have the ego. Ego is something that grows out of the id. As we grow up, we tend to realize that we cannot really satisfy all our needs whenever we really want to. It's something that you simply can't do. So it's based on something known as your reality principle. The reality principle is basically what is guiding us to behave in appropriate ways. Okay, so whatever is the best possible way of behaving, which is something that won't be embarrassing or humiliating for you or for others around you, so that you become socially desirable, is what the ego is all about, guys. Yes, of course, you've got this superego up next. Superego is that part of your mind that is the moral branch, which is the moral functioning. This moral mental functioning is honestly telling you the right thing to do. So, what is it that's morally right? What is it that's ethically correct to do? And it wants to focus on just that. So, all the rights and wrongs which your parents tell you as you're growing up, your teachers guide you to, is something that they help you to internalize. Okay, so when you do the right thing, you get reinforced, you get those chocolates or a star mark or a plus or a smiley, whatever it is. Your parents, they take you out to your favorite place for dessert, or they get you an iPhone, whatever it is. All of that process of socialization is actually helping you to understand the moral branch of your mind, which will then guide you for what's the right thing to do. Great. So this was a little bit about the structure of personality. It can come as a 3 or a 4 marker. And of course, guys, as you know, we discussed the format in the last class. So I hope you pay a lot of attention to it. And that's a wrap to this particular structure of psychoanalysis. So up next, guys, Can it be a little prideful to really accept your reality? Sometimes can it be very, very, like a lot? Sometimes can it be a lot to realize that maybe you're the bad person and you're the one who is being demonic and misbehaving, right? Sometimes it can be too much to realize that it's you who is the problem after all and who needs to fix themselves. So the whole idea over here is to realize that sometimes when you come to truth or self-awareness, it can be quite anxiety provoking. Right? Isn't it so anxiety provoking when you're expected to do your homework and you forget about it? And then the teacher asks you for it, and then you're clueless and blank and in surprise and wonder of what would happen next. So that's exactly how anxiety, when it comes to the surface level, that's how it feels. It can leave you with a beating heart, which is quite high, with sweaty palms and feet, and with a lot of nervousness. So then, what is it that we really do? Do we tend to defend ourselves? Do we use some kind of a defense mechanism to keep that at bay or help us overcome it? Well, yes, we do. So, all of us, we use these interesting things known as defense mechanisms in our everyday. And these mechanisms actually help you to overcome whatever obstacle you're experiencing at the moment psychologically. So, what these are, let's dive to explore them now. So, a lot of us guys, we tend to escape or deal with a lot of reality that we experience in our everyday, and to overcome it, we all love to use some kind of a mechanism to help push this anxiety away so that it doesn't come to the surface. And we really tend to, avoid it, and instinctually we try to keep it under the wraps, under the carpet, and that's how we truly deal with a lot of our anxiety. We basically do it by distorting our reality. So, what techniques do we really use? And if you're wondering that we don't do it, you'll understand this better now to realize that you actually do it. Okay, so here are the various types of defense mechanisms ahead of you, which we'll now do together. So these types of defense mechanism, the first one is called as repression. That means whatever anxiety provoking thoughts you actually have, you simply dismiss them from your unconscious mind. That means you simply take them and you push them out, and you don't want to think about it because it's something that does not feel good to you. So you largely just delete, minus, push it out from your conscious mind, and that is understood as repression. So when was the last time you repressed some information? For example, recently I found out that a family member got a diagnosis, and that didn't feel good to know at that time. So the first thing that I literally did was I simply dismissed it from my conscious mind. I simply realized that there is so much well-being and whatever this is could be dealt with. And initially I believed that I repressed that anxiety provoking information out of my mind to my unconscious mind. So that, guys, is repression. The next one is called as projection. So what is it to project? Have you seen those projectors in your classrooms? So what is it that they truly do? They actually get the information from a device and they project it out to another device. So this is exactly what you do. Let's say sometimes you come across a teacher that you don't really like. Happens, and just because you don't let's say that the person has a lot of strong aggressive tendencies, okay, which means so you might want to put that on this other teacher and say that it's not me, but it's that other teacher. She's the one who kind of has these we're going to do projection again. Okay, so what is projection? Have you seen a projector in your classroom? What does it truly do? Isn't it just projecting the attributes which it's seeing in the laptop onto the screen on the board? So a projector essentially is just, mirroring whatever they're feeling within on the outside. And that is how projection works as a defense mechanism. You will have the tendency to excessively put your traits on the other person, saying that it's them who's behaving that way and not you. Let's say that you're not a smooth talker and you make it difficult to have conversation with people. And just because it's hard to accept that, you might say that the other person you love talking to is not a smooth talker and they make it difficult to have conversation with you. So do you see how projection really works here? Great. Next, we're going to move ahead to understand the concept of denial. So, denial is rather dramatic, and in this, the person absolutely, completely refuses to accept their reality. They are in awe of what has happened, and they simply don't want to accept it, so they absolutely dismiss it from their existence. For example, I got a 9 on 100 in my maths exam, and it is so anxiety provoking that it maybe makes my heart sink and I do not feel good about it. And what I'd like to do is completely dismiss the fact that I got a 9 on 100. I'll just be like, no, that didn't happen. Imagine, like, legit, literally, truly, really, yes. So I'll simply deny that information. Up next, we've got reaction formation. So reaction formation is basically you reflect the opposite feelings of what you truly feel to an individual. So have you seen those boys and girls in middle school? You know how they actually hate each other so much, the boys and girls. But sometimes when they need to work with each other in groups, in large groups, to maybe do class presentations, they're going to try to behave in opposite ways. So they try to adopt behaviors which are different from their true feelings so that they can actually come together and work on a common project that the teacher expects them to do. So that is reaction formation, guys. You give out feelings which are opposite to what you feel, maybe to earn whatever it is that you're trying to from your environment. Okay, anxiety provoking stuff, and it. Up next, we've got rationalization. Well, I'm sure that this is going to be your personal favorite because rationalization is being unreasonable. Okay, so there are a lot of unreasonable feelings and behaviors. You try to make them seem reasonable and acceptable as you try to talk to the other person. So, for example, your teacher asked to do some homework and you completely forgot about it. So the best example for this you could give to your teacher was the reason why you didn't do your homework was because your cat spilled milk on your homework or your dog chewed your notebook down. So that, guys, is rationalization. You try to make something very unrationable and unreasonable seem very reasonable and acceptable. And I'm sure you're pioneers of that by now, aren't you? So that is a little bit about rationalization, guys. With this, we come to a wrap to today's little session on understanding psychoanalysis. That was all about defense mechanisms, guys, and I hope that you really enjoyed this part wherein we kind of unraveled the levels of the mind which had to do with the consciousness, the preconsciousness, and the unconsciousness. And trust me, your unconsciousness is a reservoir of thoughts, feelings, things which are not even explored by you. Although it is true that the best for it to show up is in your dreams. So I suggest you guys to maintain a dream journal for a week and write out the symbols that come in your dream while you sleep. Make sure to keep that by your bedside so that the first thing you do is wake up in the morning and pin out the symbols. And if you're interested and curious to unravel those symbols, make sure to pin them in the comment section for me so that I can help you answer with some answers for the same. Also, for today's lesson, we kind of explored the concepts of the id, ego, and superego, which were so new to you. So I hope that you understood them well. It is essential to underline the important keywords there. So I hope you've done that timely. And last off, we kind of discovered some of the defense mechanisms which you and I use in our everyday. So which one was your favorite defense mechanism, guys? Let me know. I'd love to read on. And I'd just love to thank you for your time focus, for being with me and being so present with me today. Next session, we're going to explore another major theory of psychoanalysis, which is going to help you really unravel your personality. It's going to let you know why you are the way you are and maybe get you to fight a wee bit with your parents for the same. Thank you for your focus. See you. Bye bye.